Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Comeback Stories. Blessed to have you all here. We got an amazing guest with us here today. She didn't have to travel too far. One of Las Vegas' finest, 6th Woman of the Year in the WNBA, Olympic Gold Medalist, WNBA All-Rookie Team, Turkish Cup winner, 2017 Naismith, Wooden, and AP Player of the Year in the NCAA. We've got Kelsey Plum with us. Kelsey, what's going on?
What's going on? Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, it's awesome to have you here. We like to dive right in. We like to go all the way back to the childhood. So could you tell us what it was like growing up for you?
Growing up was competitive. My dad is different. My dad is everything was a competition. Like even as a baby sitting in the high chair, he would put food and you would grab it and he would pull it away. And he would be like, Plumber, you got to take it. You got to take it if you want it. And, you know, I laugh now because it's such a symbol for life. But, you know, as a kid, we'd go to restaurants and my dad would pay the bill, get in the car, and drive off. And if you didn't catch the car, like you were going to get left. You had to walk home.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. It was just, I mean, it was always a great time, having a ton of fun, but everything was a competition.
Did that ever add some, like, pressure onto you? Did you ever feel like it was a lot to live up to? Do you feel like it maybe, like, robbed you of, like, a little bit of a kid experience? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I think there are definitely times where you don't realize it's not normal until you go spend the night at someone else's house and you're like, wow, you don't have to box out to eat dinner, or like I don't have to, you know, make sure you're not going to steal my food, or even after games, just conversations that I'd have with my parents and then hearing maybe conversations that my friends were having. But I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change anything. I think, you know, I had an amazing childhood. Like there's 4 of us. I'm the third of 4. And, you know, all of us played college, Division I, on full scholarship. You know, both my parents played in college. My sister and I both played professionally. So, I mean, the competitiveness, I guess you could say it worked.
No doubt.
Worked for your dad if he didn't have to pay for anybody's college.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't have to pay college for themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So would you say that your dad was your first real teacher? We like to go back and say, who was somebody that really started to form our character or form the way that we faced adversity early on in life? Like, would you say that was your dad?
I actually think that would probably be my 2 older sisters. You know, I was so fortunate to have their age gap. My oldest sister is 4 years older than me, and then my second sister is 2 years older than me. And, you know, growing up, I got to watch them manage life and see the mistakes that they made. And they were very adamant about, Kelsey, you should do this. You shouldn't do this. Watch, look what I did, learn from it. And I was so appreciative because even when I got to college, I felt like I had already had a roadmap of what to do, what not to do, you know. And so I'm super blessed. I feel like they took a lot of hits on the chin for me, and so I didn't have to.
That's big. It's like, I know a lot of people in this day and age, they want to say like they're self-made and like they got it on their own out the mud, and it's like, I feel like that's impossible. But it really helps when you have somebody that's already been there and can pave the road for you. And so with that, I want to say, is there a moment of adversity, like very early on in your life, like in your childhood, that was a struggle for you or something that made you feel kind of uneasy with life? Like for me, it was like people said I wasn't black enough. And so that used to just like, I'd be like, well, what? Like, what do you want me to do? And I just went into like people-pleasing mode to the 1000th power. And it was just like that experience and having that in my face and hearing that every single day was rough for me, and it changed the way that I approached life. Would you say that anything happened to you when you were younger, around that age?
Yeah, I think when I was young, I think I was probably 10 or 11, and I was trying out for a basketball team that was like under 14 or 15, like significant age gap. And I was good enough to be on the team, but I remember the coaches brought me in to like a meeting for the club, and they wanted to talk to me because they're like, hey, this is a big age gap. We want to just make sure mentally and emotionally, like, you're going to be able to be a good teammate and handle. Because, you know, when you grow up, like, when you're 10, you're completely different than when you're 14. You know what I mean? Right. And so I remember they bringing me in, and one of the coaches was like, well, what do you want to do? Like, what's your aspiration? And I was like, I'm going to go play for Pat Summit, and then I'm going to play in the league. Like, that's what I'm going to do. And I remember she started laughing. Like, the coach started laughing at me. And I literally was like, what's so funny? And she's like, do you know how many kids want to do that? And I'm like, sure, millions. Okay. And she was just like, yeah, basically like, look at you. You know, like at the time I was probably like 5'4", and I mean, I'm white and not like this freak athlete. And I was just so pissed off. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you're laughing at me. And I remember I went home and told my parents, and they were just like, prove it wrong. And I didn't play for Pat Summitt, but I did make it to the league. And I actually haven't seen her since. I've always wanted to go back and like find her and just be like, hey, how did that feel to tell a kid that they weren't going to do what they wanted to do? But that definitely was like a big moment in my life, because that right there, I made the decision. I was like, oh, no, she's wrong. She's wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, judging off the introduction alone, you definitely proved her wrong. I mean, I didn't even say McDonald's All-American, all-time leading scorer in the NCAA. Like, take us through, like, your early basketball journey, going through high school into college, and you just being, like, I mean, just if the stats say it, the best college women's basketball player ever, like, take us through what that was like the pros and the cons of just the load that it was.
So I think for me, if you were to ask me going into college what it was going to be like, I had no idea it was going to be like that. I remember coming into college, and as a freshman, I led the country in minutes played. As a freshman, they named me a captain, like the first.
Right when you showed up?
Right when I showed up.
Wow.
And it was like social suicide. Like, just, I mean, imagine a rookie being named a captain on your team. Like, you would.
Oh, yeah, he's getting smoked.
He's getting smoked. Every single play, you're going at his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I just remember thinking, like, God, why? Why? Like, I didn't ask for this. This wasn't. And the coach's idea was, you're strong enough to handle it, and we're going to change the culture, and it's going to be with you. And it was really hard. It was really hard. I think for me, my college career, it's built a lot of character, but don't get me wrong, like, there were moments I didn't think, like, I was depressed, suicidal, heavy antidepressants, sleeping medications, like, to get through, and it ultimately became like my decline. And then obviously I'm back. But yeah, it was brutal to put that much pressure on a kid, and then to perform. And then, of course, you know, people see like the scoring, and that's like the new expectation, you know? And so I just remember, like, I was on campus. I had a camera crew following me around, coming into class with me. And, you know, parents would bring their kids from all over to watch me play. And they would get so sad. They're like, man, she only scored 20 today. Like, dang it, we missed it.
That's wild.
We missed it. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, dang, I played good. Like, I got everybody the ball. We won. 20? Nope. Nah.
I'm not here to see you be a team player.
No, they're trying to see me. They're trying to see me get it up, you know? And I just remember there was a countdown in the Seattle Times of how many points I needed to have to continue to break the record. And, like, I'm not paying attention to these things, but you got everybody else in the world paying attention to it. And I'd have professors say, hey, 150 more, you got it. And I'm like, does anyone see me? You know what I mean? Like, does anyone care? But ultimately, the whole experience has definitely forged who I am and what I've been through and what I know I continue to go through. Because, I mean, I wouldn't be here if I didn't go through that.
It's a fascinating story. I feel like you guys have parallels in your journeys, even going back to childhood, where you talked about you had a unibrow, right? Dyslexic, chubby, and awkward. And Darren's mentioned the same thing. And then even leading up to draft day, where I know Darren had talked about this, where he was not in a great place on the biggest day of his life. And I think you had a similar story.
Draft day probably was one of my all-time lows. I remember being drafted. Side note, anyone's watching, and if you're drafted, don't bring your boyfriend or girlfriend, or at least don't put them in the pictures, because you're probably not gonna.
Nah. I don't mean to go off track, but have you ever seen Russell Wilson's draft day with his wife?
Yes. No. Don't do it.
I've seen when C.D. Lamb's girlfriend looked at his phone and he snatched the phone from her.
Plenty of memories, but carry on. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So anyways, my family was there. You know, all my friends were there, and I remember I got drafted, and you know, that's a moment that you work for your whole life, and you are just waiting for it, and it happened. I just remember being so empty, just so empty and so numb. We finish the night. We all get in the taxis. It's in New York City. And I remember telling everyone, I'm like, hey, guys, I forgot my wallet or ID at the hotel. I'm going to go to the hotel. Don't worry about me. Go to the club. I'll meet everyone there. You know, we'll pop champagne. Cool. And I just remember going back to the hotel room and just going to bed by myself. Like I had my ID the whole time, but I just was so broken, and it was just that for the next like month. It was probably like the worst month of my life.
What was missing in your life?
I feel like you are chasing something for so long, and I feel like the satisfaction I thought I was going to get for whatever, scoring those points, breaking those records, winning those awards, getting drafted #1 was going to fix my emptiness or the lack of identity that I had for myself. You know, I literally had no idea who I was if basketball wasn't happening. And when it did all happen, it was like even more of a reassurance, excuse me, that I feel like nothing. I feel so worthless. I feel so empty, and I did everything I was supposed to do, and I'm supposed to be happy right now, and I'm not. And it was just terrible.
Yeah, it's like that's it. Like
Yeah,
that's all it is.
that's it.
Like, I remember that vividly. Within my first 2 years in the league, it's like I've checked off. You look at the boxes that you have in a little, like a checklist almost for your life, and it's like I checked off every box. I'm like, I'm miserable pretty much. Like it's not just like like I'm almost there. Like no, this sucks. Like it's like when you attach your identity to your performance, it's like self-robbery almost, because you're basically saying this is how I earn love, or this is how I am worthy of love through how I perform, what my stat line looks like, how many yards, and you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's no way for a human being to live, but that's what the world teaches us. So it's like, as we go on through our journey, it's about unlearning everything that we've been taught almost. Like, I'm like, everything I've been shown, like as a man, like what I'm supposed to do, I've kind of like tossed in the trash can and trying to build a new foundation. So it's like all those things, it'll never be enough. Ever.
So interesting how so many people have this story. All three of us sitting here, where I didn't make it to the level you two
Donnie
did.
was D1. Donnie was D1.
Donnie.
Talk about it, Donnie.
College baseball, but 15 games into my senior year, I had a massive traumatic knee injury, a surgery that ended my career and my whole identity. I'm an achiever. If you've ever taken the Enneagram test, it'll break down your personality traits. It's really fascinating. But my main one is a 3. I'm an achiever. And a lot of that comes from seeking validation. I got all my attention, all my approval through the performance of my sports. And one day when that was taken away from me, I had nothing. And that literally almost killed me, because it started a long run of an addiction to pain pills, and I did a lot of other drugs, but that is almost what took me out, is that same exact thing. So I love hearing your story and Darren's story, and I know there's people listening to this that can relate to this, whether you're an athlete or your identity was wrapped in something else, that you better know who you are beyond the sport. And the other thing I would say, when I'm coaching athletes or clients, when we talk about goal setting, like when you set a goal, like the last step of setting a goal is you got to detach from the outcome. Because you actually don't have control over the outcome of it. But if you're so wrapped up in attached to the outcome of it, and then you get it, and then what? So the key to goal setting is just to be able to release attachments to the outcome and trust that it's going to unfold how it has to, but figuring out who you are beyond the sport. Like you said, all of your self-esteem was determined by the performance of how you were doing on the court.
The journey is the destination.
Yeah. It's powerful. What would you say it was your lowest of, what was your low? What was your rock bottom?
I got drafted to San Antonio, and we lived at this apartment, and it was attached to a parking structure, and it was probably like 7 or 8 floors high, and I lived on the 7th or 8th floor. And so when I drove on the parking structure, I would just drive up to the top and park, and I remember I would just sit out at night on top of the structure and just dangle my legs over and just cry. And then I would just call random people in my phone. And I remember one night I called Markel Fultz. Me and him were really close in college, and I thought it was the night. I thought it was it. And I just remember, like, thinking to myself, it's funny now. Well, it's not funny now, but I can laugh at it now. Like, I'm like, man, if I jump, and my mom obviously will know, she'll kill me again. Like, and in my mind, I just kept thinking, like, there's got to be more to this. There's got to be something else. Like, I can't let this be it. This is not what takes me out. Like, I was like, I worked too hard to get to this spot and let this parking structure be the reason that I go. And it took me, I still don't know necessarily how I kind of got back in. I mean, I just would pray. I would just sit up there and I would just pray, like, and cry. And then I go to practice the next day. And the worst part about it, I think, for me, is that I'm such a private person that I didn't tell anybody. Like, nobody knew I was going through this. Yep. People just thought I wasn't that good at basketball anymore. You know, there's, oh, she's just, the translation to college and to pro is just not working for her. Right. And I was just hanging on by a thread. So that was probably the lowest.
People don't think that your performance is attached to, like, what's going on the inside. Like, my career was a shitstorm in the beginning because it was a shitstorm going on inside of me that I wasn't willing to sit with, reflect on, and try to find a solution to fix. And coincidence, like, my football career got better when I did the work on the inside, and football just kind of started to happen because I take this human body and put it in pads and a Raiders helmet and go out on the field. I'm not just a cyborg out there just running around just playing the sport. Like, that's maybe how some people view me, but I have to take the person onto the field. And if the person is not cared for, if the person is not loved first and foremost, if the performance is ahead of the person, then it's going to be it's a combustible formula, I feel like. So, yeah, it's like I see that too. And it's like people are like, oh, man, they just ain't got it no more. It's like, no, like, there's something in me that needs to change before we get back to playing this game where we put a ball with air through a net. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, we always talk about the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. And the most important words you'll ever hear are the ones you say to yourself. So I think a lot of this comes in your belief system.
Right.
And that's even before your thoughts. They say your thoughts control your life, but I believe that it's actually your beliefs that create your thoughts. So until you shift your belief system, we're going to end up right back in that same place no matter what we acquire. No matter how many gold medals or championships that we get, like, we have to get right on the inside. And in doing so, everything else will get right on the outside. What do you think? I know you've got, like, at least 2 comebacks, but for comeback part 1, for this part with the mental health stuff, what was the story that you had to stop telling yourself so that you could create a new comeback story?
I realized that I lived in the victim mentality. I realized that it was the blame game. It was like, well, coach doesn't mess with me, and this girl doesn't want to pass me the ball, and you know, my knee's partially torn, and you know, I'm going on, like, just this family stuff, or like, it was always something that was wrong. And I just finally, I think I got to the point where I realized no one's gonna help me. This is like, I got to figure this out. Like, I can't keep blaming stuff or I'll be out the league, you know, I'll be done. And I think that transition of thought and just really saying, like, I'm going to take responsibility for what's going on in my life and get better and just be a dog. So that's kind of what.
No doubt. In that, I hear there's a shift from, it's not about what happens to me, it's about my response to what happens to me. Because there's a lot of things that people can turn on you, or you know, things cannot go your way. Like a bad game can happen. Like, all these things can happen to us, and it's like there's no way we can control everything. Try to hold the world and, like, just be stretched all over the place. Like, that's literally impossible. So it's about my response to that. I don't have to let it dictate my emotions or my thoughts or how I treat people or how I talk to people. You know, it's like I have power in that sense. Whereas before, it's like in the blame game, it's like there is no power. Everything happens to me. It's not about what I do and and when I start taking ownership for what I do, it's like that's when the world starts to change. That's when my life starts to change.
I got the chills just saying that because I talk about that all the time in my own sobriety and recovery. Everything changed when I stopped blaming. Stopped blaming the doctor who screwed me over, and my parents who were all over me, and just took ownership. Took personal responsibility to participate in my own rescue. Like no one's going to come save me. My family was trying. They were probably, my mom especially, was enabling me. She's blinded by love and she thought she was helping, but probably was digging my bottom a little deeper because she only knows how to love, but was often getting in the way. But I think that's it, just ownership and not taking things personally, right? That's, Darren and I always talk about the 4 agreements. Yeah. And that's what that is. Playing the victim is when we're taking things personally. And that self-pity is buries a lot of people, whether they actually die or live an unfulfilled life. Like, that's the story of victimization that keeps us in a really, really small, self-centered place.
Nah, for real. But I mean, it's like that self-centeredness is, in a way, it's kind of taught to us. I was just saying this on a Zoom yesterday. It was like we're taught to come into this world and take success or take wealth or, create this platform for us. And it's like, what are we doing for other people? And it's like we have to learn how to do that. It takes reps to do that, as it takes reps when you pull up mid-range. It takes reps for running routes. It takes reps for hitting the baseball. It takes reps for all these things. And we're not necessarily taught to come into this world and be of service to people from the gate and then see what comes to us after that. And so that self-centered perspective keeps us in this world where it's like anything that happens around me, it's about me. Like, it has to do with me. Like, why are you doing this to me? Like, how did this, what did I do to deserve this? And it's like, it's not even that. It's just life. But if we approach it with the love that we give, not something that I should be getting something in return, but we're not taught that.
We got lucky, me and you, from the addiction standpoint.
Extremely lucky.
I think about this all the time. There's a lot of people that didn't go through an addiction, which I own. That was self-inflicted. There's mental health. There's people that are just kind of sleepwalking through life. But to be able to truly own our life it's everything. It's just taking personal responsibility. I think that's what sets us free, where we're not giving our power away to other people, places, and things. But yeah, in the addiction, they teach us selfishness and self-centeredness is the core of our disease. So what's the antidote? Service. And service is like the greatest life hack ever. And service, when you're in self-pity, just go help somebody. Then you're not going to be thinking about your own shit.
I want to get back to your journey though. So I'm picturing you like sitting on top of the parking deck, and I'm like, okay, like when people think of a comeback story, like you bounce back from that, a lot of people may think like everything is great, like nothing bad is going to happen again. Like I've already overcome everything. But no, it's like, there's another major event in your life, like you tearing your Achilles. Like that's another moment of adversity. We never know like what the number of times we're going to have to bounce back, but here's another one for you. And it's like, do you think that experience of you bouncing back from those suicidal thoughts and your mental health at that time when you were a rookie compared to the Achilles, like do you think you were prepared more so in a way for a fight that came unexpectedly?
That's a great question. The Achilles was the best thing that ever happened to me. The best thing that ever happened to me, because I'm a goer. Like I want to move. I want to go. I don't get tired. I can go all day. And it literally forced me to sit down. Like, I don't know if you guys know Achilles protocol, but the first 14 days, you can't sweat. You're in a cast with the stitches, and you can't sweat so the stitches don't get inflamed.
To me, you can't sweat.
Like, you can't sweat, so you can't move. Like, you're literally bed rest.
I sweat doing nothing.
Exactly. Exactly. And my dad's cheap. Like, he doesn't pay for AC. So I'm in the bed on the first floor in Cali because I got surgery in LA. I couldn't go to Vegas. And I live, like, I have to walk upstairs in my house. So I'm sitting in the living room on, like, an air mattress for 14 days with my leg up. And just hoping to God that I don't get infected because it's hot. It's super hot. And I've never done that in my life.
You didn't move?
I mean, I like wheeled around to go to the bathroom.
Word.
You know what I mean? Or like maybe sat outside for a little bit, tried to read a book, and I was like, oh, basketball better work out because this isn't great.
Right.
And I'm like, this is terrible. And I just finally had to come to grips with what was happening. And I had to like force myself to find something outside of basketball because I'm like, this is it. And then from there, I mean, you know the story. Like I came back and everything was Gucci, but the Achilles reset my mindset for reality and my perspective on gratitude, my ability to be present. I think the awareness wasn't where it needed to be. I got to rebuild myself mentally, spiritually, physically. And today, like, I still believe it was a gift from God. Like, it was a gift from God that I tore my Achilles.
And I don't think you would have been able to come back from that one the way you did if you weren't in that first comeback, because I think you talked about it where you weren't in self-pity, right? And so that kind of set you up for this next one and gave you the strength and the right perspective to see that this is actually happening for me and not to me, which is like the big shift. It's a perspective shift.
That's beautiful. There's a book that people like me and Donnie read when we go to meetings, and in it says, you know, we will know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. And it's like people would be like, there's no way somebody that would be sitting with their foot up on the air mattress would be able to say at that time, this is going to be the best thing that's ever happened to me. Ain't nobody saying that. But it's like when you go through it and you look back, it's like the things that you never expected, those things, those rough adversity times that you thought like you wish you could avoid as a human being, like you want to avoid that discomfort. But when that discomfort happens, your perspective changes, your life changes, and you look back and you're grateful for it. But as human beings, we're not wired to see it that way. But it's beautiful to sit here and see and hear somebody that has all these accolades and has performed all this, because that's who people look to. But to hear you use your voice in this way and to share these things and put these things out there, this is what people need to hear. That's why we're in this room. Like, there's no other reason for us to be here in this room than to change the conversations that people have. So you're a real one.
Yeah, you are. And I would say, I would like to ask you, how do you sustain this today? Like, what's your morning routine? What's your pregame routine? What do you do to keep your mind right and your heart protected also?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know about you guys, but there are moments where I have to like, wait a second, like, don't go back. You know, don't go back. Like, where are you?
Every day.
It's a check-in. You know.
Every day.
Meditation has been huge for me. I get up. I like to be outside. I like to hear the birds chirp. I meditate for 10, 15 minutes. I write down 10 things I'm grateful for. And I try, some days it's harder than others, but I try to make it more diverse. You know what I mean? Can't just be grateful for the same thing every day. And then I also write down, I work with a coach, and I write down interferences, things that get in the way of me being present for the day, or potential interferences. And so, for example, I mean, a lot of times it is performance-based, but there's things in life, you know? So I think, you know, for example, say we're playing a game, we're playing against Dallas or something. So I know I'm going to be guarding this girl, and I know that she's going to try to get me in foul trouble. So what's a possible interference? I'm in foul trouble on the bench. How am I gonna prepare my mind for that? Or possible interference, I don't know, turn the ball over a couple times to start the game. Or possible interference, I get in an argument with my mom in the morning. How is that gonna change the direction of my day? Just little things like that, and that's been really big for me, being present and being in the moment, and it's changed the quality of my days. And that's like a lifelong thing that I will never give that up.
So beautiful. Interferences or distractions, kind of the same thing. And I always say it's our reaction to our distractions. So when you get ahead of it and be proactive and shine the light of awareness on what could possibly, and it's not like you're manifesting it, you're intentionally calling in what could get in the way so that you can have a plan if it does.
No doubt.
It's beautiful preparation.
My sponsor be dropping gems on me. And he says, like, in line with this, he says, you choose your own level of distraction. And I'm just like, it's just been marinating in my mind. I'm just like, wow, like, it's kind of like in the beginning, like you said, like a victim mentality is like it's always somebody else, the blame game. But it's like, no, you choose like the impact that those kind of things get to have on you as a person. And it's like that's powerful because you don't know when these things pop up. But if you deal with them in the right way, things are going to continue to go in your favor. We need these moments where things aren't going our way, or like you said, we got to slow down, or we have to wait. Like we need those things as people, even though we don't want them.
Well, and your practices are so beautiful. I mean, I always say what we practice grows stronger. And so a lot of us get really good at being distracted. How could we not in a world that's addicted and afflicted to distraction? I mean, the phone alone, that's still today is my biggest distraction. And living out by the ocean now, and I will connect with nature and get out there and then come back and grab my phone, and I feel the disconnect. Like I can feel it in my body now. So I'm a lot more aware of it. It's still happening, but it's the visceral feeling of it that allows me to actually, it's the awareness, which allows me to stop and redirect my focus onto what matters and not going down one of those rabbit holes with the phone.
The phone is like, oh
It's
my
like crack.
gosh, it's oof. I hate the phone. I wouldn't have social media. I wouldn't have any of it, but
For real.
I'm trying to put my future kids through college. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I'm gonna tell the truth on y'all. I was late today. I forgot my phone at home, but it's really for that. Like I don't even get alerts through my phone. I don't know how these Atlanta telemarketers keep getting my number. They need to stop, but that's the only thing that comes through, and I just press end on it. But I've set myself up in a way to where it's like, because we have that itch, and it's just like, and you like reach for it. And it's like, even if it's not buzzing, like you aren't reach, like, oh, something's happening. It's like that phone is dangerous.
You're more disciplined than most with that phone. I mean, I know from a social media standpoint, I'm sure if you really made a little bit of an effort, you probably could have a lot more followers. And I know that doesn't really matter to you. Yeah.
I start trying to run that up. I'm playing a game that I can never win, you know?
Yeah. Just doesn't align with your values.
Right.
I will add to the daily practice. Don't touch my phone for the first hour of the day.
Facts.
And don't touch it for the last. It's hard at the end of the night because a lot of time you're trying to catch up on like texts or whatever, DMs. No, I'm kidding. And so that's hard. I try to make sure I'm at least 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the day. But the first hour in the morning, like you said, it's like you touch it and you feel like you've just been corrupted. I don't know what it is, but
I love your practices. I mean, my life changed when I stopped grabbing my phone. I had a coach take me through this visualization because what I used to do was wake up, and the second I woke up, check text, check social media, check email, right away into reaction, and ultimately reacting to other people and distraction. And I had this teacher or my coach take me through this visualization, and she said, okay, I'm going to take you through, you're in a movie theater. I want you to visualize there's 3 screens. The first screen is you watching yourself grab your phone and go to social media when you wake up. The second screen is you choosing to meditate and do your daily reflections. And the third screen's a blank screen. It's just white. And she's like, I'm going to make this swooshing sound. Every time I make the swooshing sound, just have the screen change. So I close my eyes, and she starts going, shoo, shoo, shoo. And I'm like, okay, this is weird, for like 2 minutes. And she's like, all right, check with you in a few days and let me know how that goes. For the next day, I woke up in the morning, and there was space. There was like awareness to choose. And I chose to meditate. 4 days in a row, so solid. 5th day, had the space, choose my phone. Total shit show that day. Felt it. And then from that day on, and it varies, but I will do intentional things before I grab that phone every single day, and it's changed my life forever. It's wild.
amen.
What would you say to the person that's driving up to the 7th floor of their parking deck, dangling their feet over the edge, somebody that may have their foot in the cast on the air mattress right now, somebody that's, in a victim mindset? Would you have anything to say to them? Because they're in their spot, they may know like what's holding them back or what they have to do, but what would you say to get them started?
There's so much more. There's so much more to life. It's so hard to see it when you're in it. I heard that quote. It was like, it's hard to see the picture when you're in it. But there's so much more to life. Don't let this life take you. I don't even know if I'm even saying this right, but just keep putting one foot forward in front of the other. Like just keep going. And I do believe that whether you believe in God, whether you believe in energy, whatever, I do believe that if your intentions are pure and you continue to push yourself and grow as a human, things will go your way. So I just pray that people like just don't give up. Don't let it take you. I don't even know if that's answers the question.
No, that's real. I was actually thinking about this earlier today because like I was like, yeah, she Achilles injury. I'm like, oh man, she probably had to learn how to walk again. And I literally have written here 1 foot in front of the other. That was like a few hours ago. And it's like somebody like me, I'm a 1 day at a time guy. That's like my mantra. That's how I move. And I can't get too far ahead into the future. I can't, and I can't stay too stuck in what's gone on before. I got to keep moving. I got to keep praying. I got to keep talking to people. I got to keep writing in my journal. I got to keep going to therapy and talking about these things, like, because I can't think my way into a better life. I have to act my way into that life, and the thinking will change in the process. So putting that 1 foot in front of the other, it's like, it's so cliche, but it's like, no, bro, like that simplicity is what it takes to create and maintain that life that you've always wanted. It doesn't take a whole lot. It's really simple.
Oh, wait, I want to add something too. In my darkest moments, still, I write out everything how I'm feeling, and I don't hold back. I put the F-bombs in there. Everything. I don't spell anything right. I write it all in there,
right? Pages
and pages, and I read it, and then I rip it up. And I don't know what it is. My performance coach, therapist, taught me that, and he said something about the brain, that when we see our words down and we basically give us back the power and we rip it up, like our brain is able to kind of transition into the next phase. And that's helped me tremendously. So if you are having one of those days, write it out, cry it out, read it, rip it up.
That's powerful. Like somebody need to hear, like, stop holding it back. Like you holding that back is holding back your healing. It's holding back your growth and that path, that next step to going to where you want to be, right?
Yeah, write it out, share it, because if you don't, it's going to turn on you and eat you up from the inside out. And that's the power of it. And even at your bottom, I think my bottom looked different than your bottom, but also you had mentioned that no one knew. So there was this quiet crisis going on inside of you, and you say we're only as sick as our secrets. So we're keeping it all in, right? And I think we think that we're the only, I thought I was the only one going through this. Poor me, right? There was a lot of shame also and guilt in the life that I had been living. And so I didn't want to talk about it. So I went into sheer isolation. And that was, it was tough when you're stuck inside your own head and you don't have anybody to talk to. But I'm telling you, you're not alone. And I know people say that all the time, but it is true. I thought I was alone, but there's a lot of people. A lot of people that have gone through the exact same thing I did, and they found a way out. So you're not alone. Do you have any affirmations or mantras or incantations or things that, and I don't know if you might want to keep them to yourself, or if you have anything that you use?
You just said we got to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Incantations. That's an amazing
I don't even know what that
I don't
means.
even know.
Please define it.
I've never heard
It's
that
just
word.
another word for an affirmation. Statements that you're saying to yourself if you look in the mirror, and you might say things, or I am statements.
I would say, generally speaking, I've learned you got to be your biggest fan. Not in an arrogant sense, but you got to self-talk. Literally self-talk. Because, like you said, we have to hear ourselves, show ourselves love. And the most important relationship is yourself. I was even working out today, and I was talking to myself during my workout because I didn't think I was going to get through it. And I did, and I was like, good job. I'm proud of you. Good job. And I know it sounds dumb, but I'm telling you, it's actually super loving, and I don't even know.
That's pivotal because
it's real.
I could catch 9 passes. I could catch 9 passes out of 10. My mind's gonna go straight to the one that I didn't if I don't talk to myself in that way and treat myself. You know what I'm saying? Talk to myself like a king.
Absolutely.
It's acknowledging, and I don't think we're not good at acknowledging others, or are definitely not good at acknowledging ourselves and celebrating those wins. But yeah, and I think when we say something out loud, it's 10 times more powerful than if we just think it. And if we say something negative out loud, it's another 7 times more powerful. So saying negative things is 17 times more powerful. but it's the power of our words. And I think talking to ourselves and creating that positive self-talk and language is everything.
I think especially being a female, being raised, and my parents were wonderful, but in general, you can't be cocky and be a girl and play sports. That's not like a thing. You know what I mean? Mm. And people come across as cocky, but they're really confident a lot of times. They're just, I think I'm the best. And, I don't know if you guys saw that movie, King Richard.
Yeah.
With Serena and Venus. But I just loved how he talked to his daughters. He said, "You're the best in the world. Right. You're the best in the world." And she heard it and she believed it. And she was like, "Dad, I'm the best in the world." And I've learned that that's who you got to talk to. Like, you got to talk about it like that. And so as a female athlete, that confidence needs to be seen. We don't have a ton of female leaders. Mm. And so, growing up, I think I had 2 older sisters that were very confident, and that instilled a lot of confidence in me. And so when I talk, I make sure that I let, young girls know. I'm like, "No, you got it like that. You're nice."
Right. How powerful of an analogy, because how many parents or someone said something to us at a young age that was not true and negative, and people are still believing that voice. I always ask, like, if some people come up with stories, I'm like, whose voice is that? That's not your voice. Your voice wouldn't say that to yourself. Your voice, you're made from love. Mm. But somebody said something, and then we believed it, and then that became our own story. It's wild.
I feel like we pass down comfortable limits to our kids or to people when it's like, when we got too comfortable to go after something and we didn't want to get uncomfortable to do it, we want other people to do what we do. We don't want them to kind of branch out from us. Like, you can't do more than I did. Like, I didn't see it was possible. So, and you really can't blame them because they don't have that experience to see more. There's more to life. There's more to what I'm currently sitting in. So we got to speak into young people. You're talking about there's not a lot of women leaders. We got one right here. I don't know what you're talking about. So we're going to affirm you right here when we're on the show. That's just what we do. You know what I'm saying? And we got one more question for you. Throughout your journey, I'm sure there are so many people that helped you along the way. If you could give a comeback story shout out to one person or a few, who would that one person or those few people be?
I have so many. Oh, my goodness. I mean, first and foremost, my mom. My mom is just a dog. Mm-hmm. My mom I remember so many times in life, she was just, "We'll figure it out. We got it. Let's do it. You got it. We'll figure it out." My mom's the type of woman, we wanted hardwood floors in our house, and she cut them herself. Oh. Put them in herself. That's what type of
Savage.
mom my mom is. So anyways, I would say first and foremost my mom, and then just my family. My family, just unbelievable support. Like you said, people say you got it out the mud, but there's so many people that help you along your way. AAU coaches, my high school coach is like an angel. I try to go back and visit her as much as I can. My college coaches, they were a big part of my life. And I just have so many friends. I can't even pick, like, to name. I just, like you said, and still to this day, like, to be successful, you don't do it on your own. You have a support system.
Right.
It's beautiful. I want to just acknowledge you for showing up and how you show up, your authenticity, your character. I love your perspective. I mean, you are speaking our language. So much stuff that you said. I mean, we're in these same practices, and I know there's so many people out there that will benefit from your story and what you shared today. So thank you for showing up big.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Appreciate you being here.
I have one question.
Oh.
Does working with Darren, like, does you have to pay you extra annually or monthly just because he's there? You know what I'm saying? We got to get it.
Well, our relationship started as.
All right, that's a wrap. We're done here. We're done.
Our relationship started as coach, client, and we talked about it a year ago, and I'm like, dude, you're not paying me anymore. We're on a ride doing something else. And
no, I was just messing.
Yeah.
I was just messing.
No,
He's a lot.
Nah, Donnie still be coaching me though.
Yeah.
Nah, Donnie still be coaching me. Like, he drops gems on me. He's somebody that I lean on, and man, through anything really. So Donnie, man, while you here, man, I'm giving you your flowers, bro. I'm not gonna wait. So I'm giving it to all y'all. That's
Thanks,
that's just the love I got in my heart. So appreciate you
Besties.
guys. For the resties, we out.
All right.